Welcome to World Gone Weird, discussing what the heck is going on in the world today.
Yeah, buckle up, folks, because it's certainly something.
I always say that, but I guess it's true, isn't it? It's always something.
Always something like that time I tried to bake bread and the cat got involved. Chaos. Utter chaos. Much like the state of global affairs, really.
Well, let's dive right in then. I was reading this article about Trump's sentencing being denied a delay. You know, the hush money case. And it's like another chapter in this ongoing saga. It's like a soap opera, but instead of love triangles, it's legal battles and political maneuvering.
Yeah, it's a bit of a circus, isn't it? I mean, they're still going at it after all this time. But the point is, why was he even facing charges? And why, now after he is certified to be the president? It's all very suspicious, isn't it? It's like they don't want him to lead.
Well, it's not a matter of not wanting him to lead. It's about upholding the rule of law and that no one, not even a president, is above that.
Rule of law, is that a new flavor of potato chip? I mean, it's all so serious, right? The hush money, the appeals, the certified president status. It all sounds like a bad reality TV show pitch.
Exactly, it is theatrical, but it has actual real-world consequences. It all highlights the deep divisions within the U.S. and how legal proceedings can be weaponized in politics, and even further undermine trust in the systems that are supposed to keep the country stable.
See, exactly. It's weaponized. They want to keep him tied up in court when they know he is now the president. Why didn't they do all this earlier? Now he has to fight it all while he leads. They want him to fail. And then there is this Biden move to block oil drilling last minute, like the guy wants to burn it all to the ground. It smells very corrupt.
Oh, come on. It's not corrupt. It's about protecting the environment. This executive order is huge. It bans offshore oil drilling in vast swaths of ocean. It's one of the largest environmental protection moves ever.
Oh yeah, protect the environment while simultaneously getting in the way of things. It's like when I tried to recycle a pizza box, but it had a bit of grease, so they said it was contaminated and couldn't be recycled. What was I supposed to do? Eat the grease? I mean, come on. It's the same thing with oil. You ban it, and now we all have to pay more for our gas. And I need my pizza and my gas, come on.
I understand the frustration, but I think we have to look at the bigger picture here. From a scientific perspective, we know climate change is real and that burning fossil fuels is a major contributor. These kinds of moves, even if they have short-term economic impact, are necessary for long-term sustainability.
Sustainability? It's just a word people throw around to sound good. But when it comes down to it, it's just another way to control people and the economy. Why is it only oil? Why are they not looking at the other polluting areas? This is the same way they banned gasoline cars in 2035. It was all politically motivated, just to make us all buy electric, which come with all their own set of problems with disposal of the batteries and the minerals needed to make them. It is a mess.
I agree it's complex, but at least someone is trying to do something. And those companies are going to have to do something new soon enough anyway. We can't just keep ignoring the problem because it's economically inconvenient, right? I mean, the science is pretty clear.
The science is clear, like my window after the cat sneezed on it. Clear and speckled with, well, never mind. All this talk about oil and politics makes me hungry. Maybe we should just all grow our own food and live off the grid. I mean, have you seen the survivalist communities? They seem to be having a grand old time stockpiling canned goods and learning to fire a crossbow.
That actually brings up a fascinating point. There seems to be a global rise in what you'd call survivalism, or the prepper movement. And I think it's a direct response to all this instability we've been discussing. You see it in the stockpiling, the self-sufficiency skills, the community building. It's like people are preparing for some kind of societal breakdown. They are losing trust in governments and institutions to look after them. They don't know what to do, so they just start to take control of their own lives.
Well, they're right not to trust the government. I mean, look at what's going on. They are putting all kinds of rules to everything, telling us what to do and not to do. They are banning gas cars and they are blocking oil drilling. It's like we have less and less control over our own lives. And yes, when they are doing all of this, of course, people are preparing for the worst. Look at the news. It's always chaos somewhere, wars, attacks. It's no surprise they are taking action.
Okay, but isn't that a little extreme, preparing for societal collapse? I understand the anxiety, but isn't there a more positive way to look at this? Maybe it's not about societal collapse. Maybe it's about people taking control and being more resilient. Like, instead of hoarding, maybe focus on community gardens and sharing resources. It's better than just stocking up on canned tuna, right?
Canned tuna, my nemesis. One of the many things they will find when they are digging up my post-apocalyptic bunker. And yes, you are right. It is a little extreme to prepare for societal collapse, but it is also hilarious. Imagine all of them running around with their bug-out bags and water filters. I love it. I mean, yes, it's also kind of terrifying, but mostly hilarious. It's like a bunch of grown-ups playing pretend apocalypse.
But see, this is where it gets tricky. Because this prepper mentality, the stockpiling, can be a zero-sum game. If everyone's hoarding resources, it could actually accelerate the kind of societal breakdown they're trying to avoid. It creates a us versus them mentality and could lead to more social unrest.
Well, when you have an us versus them mentality, it's always for a good reason. Usually because you are being controlled by them, and so naturally you want to break free. And the fact that there are more and more people joining these communities, they must see it. They understand it's time to prepare for the worst. I mean, if the government can't even organize a response to a storm, then how are they going to handle a real crisis?
But the problem is that with the amount of fear that is now driving these movements, it makes everyone more scared and suspicious of each other. It creates even more division and could lead to real problems like violence. It's just not sustainable.
Violence. Oh, the good old-fashioned human interaction. It's like they're trading in their smartphones for survival knives. I tell you what, that would spice up the neighborhood watch. But jokes aside, yeah, the fear is a big driver. It's not just canned tuna. It's a fear of the unknown. It's the fear of losing control.
And that fear, that anxiety, it's not just a personal thing, it is societal. The media is constantly bombarding us with stories of conflict, political instability, climate disaster. It's like it's deliberately creating a sense of unease, which of course then fuels these movements further.
Exactly. The media does exactly that. It is so biased now. It's always focusing on the negative and the scary. It's all to make us scared and control us. And they make these stories seem as if they are all going to happen tomorrow. So of course people start panicking and preparing.
Well, I don't think the media is deliberately trying to make us afraid. I think they are just reporting what is happening. It's a fine line between being informed and being overwhelmed. The problem is that it can create these echo chambers, where people are only exposed to information that confirms their fears, reinforcing these beliefs and the need to prepare for a collapse.
Oh, echo chambers where you can yell your opinions into the void and everyone agrees with you? It's fantastic. Like shouting about your hatred for squirrels into an empty bin, you just feel like someone is listening. But I see it, yeah. The echo chambers just make it worse. You get these conspiracy theories too, and suddenly the government is controlling the weather. The moon landing was fake, and your neighbor is a lizard person. It's a mess, a beautiful, chaotic mess.
Yes, and the conspiracy theories, they play a huge role. These narratives, they often frame governments and institutions as malicious forces, so that it all further feeds into this distrust, which then pushes people even further into survivalism. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people are afraid and preparing, the more unstable society becomes, and the more valid these fears feel.
Well, it's not really a conspiracy when it's all happening around us. They are all trying to control us. They are using laws and regulations to take away our freedom, banning gas cars, blocking oil drilling, telling us what to eat, what to believe. It's all there. It's not some wild conspiracy. And if they are willing to be dishonest and not transparent, how can we trust them?
But the government isn't some monolithic force of evil. It's just a bunch of flawed people trying to make things work. And sure, there are issues. There's corruption, but you can't just assume everyone is against us. We are part of a society, and we need to cooperate and contribute to building solutions. It seems the only thing survivalism focuses on is fear and distrust.
And hoarding tuna. Don't forget the tuna. Look, I get it. The world is a dumpster fire. Sometimes you just want to grab a bucket and some marshmallows. And yeah, government is flawed. It's always going to be flawed because it's run by humans and humans are inherently flawed. It's like trusting a cat with a ball of yarn. They're going to screw it up eventually. But that doesn't mean the world is ending.
It doesn't mean the world is ending, but it does mean there's a risk of some very real problems. We're talking about resource scarcity and how this survivalist mentality, this hoarding and every man for himself attitude, will only make a bad situation worse. If resources become scarce, we're looking at conflict, not just in some far-off dystopian future, but right now in these communities.
Well, it makes sense. If resources are limited and you have a family to feed, you're going to fight for them. It's human nature. Nature. Animals do it all the time. It's survival of the fittest, isn't it? The strong will take what they need and they will defend it, so you better be strong yourself, no matter what that means. That's the logic behind the prepping, isn't it?
But that logic is so dangerous and destructive. That is exactly the problem. If everyone just fights for themselves, we will just end up destroying each other and will create a self-fulfilling prophecy of this collapse they are so scared about. Surely we can create a different future, a future that's based on cooperation and resource sharing.
Ah, yes, resource sharing, like when my neighbor borrowed my hedge trimmer and returned it broken, and they never offered to pay for it. So cooperation has its limits, you know. But honestly, we're all just trying to survive, right? Some of us are stockpiling, others are advocating for environmental change, and some are just making jokes. We're all reacting to the same chaotic world. But I tell you, that crossbow does look appealing. Just for target practice, of course. Maybe.
The thing is, this rise of survivalism isn't just about individual actions, it is also a reflection of deep societal failures. The lack of trust in government, the feeling that the systems are broken and not working for everyone, it's all fueling this movement. And you see it manifest itself in different ways, from doomsday bunkers to community gardens, all a reaction to the same underlying fear and uncertainty about the future.
So we agree, the system is broken. And so people are right to be weary of trusting it. And it's not just a broken system. They are using it to control us, to tell us what to do. They want us to depend on them. It's like a parent controlling a child. So of course we are going to break free of that dependency and start doing our own thing. So yes, I can see the appeal of these communities. It's about freedom.
I agree that the system is flawed and we need to do better. But I disagree that it is all designed to control us. I think people in power are more incompetent than malicious. And maybe if we actually all got involved and put our energy into making things better, instead of hoarding, maybe we can fix some things. If we don't do that, we will end up in a dystopian world where only the strong survive, and that's not a future I want.
I don't know about dystopian, but the strong do look very interesting with their crossbows and their camouflage gear. But yes, we do need to try and fix things, I guess. Or we can start collecting bottle caps and trade for canned goods, if all goes wrong. But seriously, the world is weird. It's confusing. It's funny, and maybe that's the only truth in it. Maybe we should just laugh instead of fighting, Maybe we should just start a comedy survivalist community. We will train how to make jokes and stockpile puns.
A comedy survivalist community. Well, I can't say I've ever thought about that before, but hey, maybe laughter is exactly what we need to get through this. The thing is that this isn't a single problem. It is a very complex, interconnected global issue. From political instability to climate change to the rise of survivalism, it's all connected. It's all a reflection of the instability that is growing around us. And it shows that we are moving into a time of great change, and maybe great uncertainty.
Yes, great uncertainty. And the government has no plan or no idea what to do, so they just add more rules and regulations, making it worse for everyone. So it's not surprising people are taking things into their own hands. And yes, these communities are a reaction to that, and they are also a result of the fact that the system is broken.
And while I don't agree with everything the communities are doing, I can see why they feel the need to do so. It is our responsibility to create a system that is fair for everyone, not just the few. I hope we can all come together, instead of splitting apart. Maybe we can look at this survivalism movement not as a sign of collapse, but as a sign of people taking initiative and trying to find their own solutions.
And maybe our solution is to train squirrels to deliver canned goods. I mean, they're everywhere. Might as well put them to work, right? Or maybe we can all just take a nap. The world will still be weird when we wake up, but at least we'll be rested. But seriously, whatever happens, whether it's societal collapse or mass squirrel uprisings, at least we have each other to talk about it. And maybe that is the point, to keep talking and to keep thinking, and try not to take everything too seriously.